So we are going back to the Hamtana period, and the purpose is to detach ourselves as much as possible from the now and all our understanding and knowledge and hindsight and whatever you want of the 50 years, and go back to 67 and try to capture a little bit of what was there. So if you can look on your left-hand side, even from afar, you will see one of the many zillion caricatures that were published in Arab states during the 3 weeks of the waiting, the Hamtana, the getting ready. And you will see here a map of Israel. Oddly enough, if you look again, if I send it to you, you'll be able to see. If you look at the map, look how at the northern end, can you see it? It doesn't have Ramat Golan, right? Because pre-67, we don't have Ramat Golan, and it doesn't have Sinai, of course. And how all the Arabs are shooting at it from afar. So, and you had movie reels about that, and we didn't have television that much at the time in Israel, but you got all this information, and it got very scary. The response is people literally digging in. Now, there are two sorts of digging, and that will help to clarify our first text. Individuals were not, I repeat, individuals were not digging graves. Municipalities were. Individuals digged shelters. Individuals digged trenches to walk safely from one place to the other. This is a classical image from a kibbutz where even the kids get involved. Also for a very practical reason. All the able-bodied people are already in the military. Okay? So a little bit of the graphic may help you. The first text, everybody whom I took pictures of to show Amnon wanted to see a picture of Amnon. So here is Amnon Grof. He is not a published writer. He is a very well-recognized artist, photographer, teacher of graphic arts in the College of Sapir, near Sderot. You know, Kassam's, Gaza, that one? Okay. This is where he teaches. He lives in southern Tel Aviv. I wish I had the time to tell you how I got to know him, but it's through Facebook. And but it's a nice Facebook story. Sometimes there are nice Facebook stories. And he also does recipes, by the way. It's worthwhile to be his Facebook friend, but in Hebrew. So Amnon suddenly starts publishing stuff relating to our common connection with the Hungarian children of Holocaust survivors background that we share. When I'm preparing this session for you guys here, I'm looking desperately for Hamtana period text, and I find nothing. Until literally on June 6th, the anniversary, Amnon puts on Facebook this text. This was beyond the deadline when I needed to send the text to Hartman, or the same day. And I needed, to ask his permission and to translate and this and that. So I said, hold on, guys, I have another text. Right. So I want you to imagine not a very well-planned, edited, looked at, beautiful poetic text. I want you to think slam, poetry slam. I want you to think spoken poetry, that kind of thing. You're sitting in a pub atmosphere, and somebody takes the mic and stands up there and talks it to you, because this is how it sounds to me. This text was never published. I do not know if it ever will be published. I saw it on Facebook. I don't even think Amnon does poetry slam. But this is the atmosphere. Before that, I need to make 100% sure that you all know what a shikun is. Shikun is when they built those low-cost apartments for Olim in the 50s and the 60s. And they were miserable then, but we loved them. I lived in one. And we still have them, and they are very miserable. And, pardon? Yeah, that was the dream. Salih Shabati, that was heaven already, the shikun. They lived in the Ma'abara and they were dreaming about the shikun, okay? The shikun were built very fast, and nobody cared about giving those neighborhoods nice names. So they end up being Shikun Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. When they finish Shikun Aleph, there is all this debris out there. Nobody has time to take care of it. They come around to build Shikun Hey, and they build it on top of the debris. It's not that they destroyed Shikun Aleph. Don't go like generation up now. It's a few months apart, and it's the debris. Beseder? And all this, I happen to know, happens in Beersheba. The waiting period was pretty stressful. It seemed, though, that the stress had not affected my father, who took command over 3 hoes, 2 wheelbarrows, 1 pick, 2 shovels, 4 plastic buckets, his wife, and 3 sons. Look at this dry, very Israeli, a little bit ironic, order of importance, okay? So my father, Holocaust survivor, who was totally unstressed, yeah, sure, and we believe him, like we believe the order of things. Takes all those things, and mom and us, and we go digging, okay? After he had marked pegs and white builder rope, a long rectangle in the middle of the garden, exactly where we used to plant once a year, a plum it should be, plum and peach trees, and uprooted 6 months later the dead plum and peach trees. So right in the cemetery of future marmalade trees, he had marked a rectangle. Chaverim, these are Holocaust survivors who, like Salah Shabati, finally got a shikun. And there was this empty lot out there. And they figured maybe they will plant some fruit trees. And they were doing it. Little did they know that it was the remnants of Shikun Aleph, the debris underneath. So they hopefully planted it. I can see the mother with a Hungarian accent just like mine, both of them of blessed memory, Amnon's and mine, promising the kids that, you know, when we have the apricot and plums, I will make you jam just like my mom used to do in Hungary. It never happened. So in Amnon's language, 50 years later, it's the cemetery of marmalade trees, which never happened, okay? He had marked a rectangle and distributed among us digging tools, and we each, with his or her hoe or shovel or pick in our hands, started digging a pit, a trench. The most exemplary, perfect pit. And he uses even like medugam, etc., military language. And I read the military language, but I see the father, this Central European character, albeit not Yeke, but almost Hungarian. And if I already do this horrible thing, it should be just perfect. Because if you do something, you do it well, right? This is how they raise you in Budapest. Okay. It was the exemplary in the whole of Shikun Hey. The rusted iron rods and huge blocks of lime, as well as the many broken brick we have encountered on our way down to the belly of the earth, were proof that Shikun Hey was built over the remnants of Shikun Aleph. Can you see that activity as these 2 Holocaust survivors with their Sabra-born Israeli children are digging their way to the belly of the earth to give their children some safety in the land that they have come to for safety after the Holocaust. And the kids get the sense of it, and Amnon remembers it 50 years later. We were digging our way through the debris of Shikun Aleph to the belly of the earth. They were the proof that Shikun Hey was built over the remnants of Shikun Aleph. They were also the reason for the untimely death of tenth of innocent fruit trees that had no hope, of course, to grow there. The iron and brick and lime did not stop my father from having an earth bench along the pit and earth or cement stairs leading into it. Over the pit, railway sleepers were placed, and above them a small hill was raised, Shikun Aleph remnants. Later, my father went off to war. So look at this whole series. You're already doing it, do it well. Cover it. Use whatever you can find in the area. You want the railroad symbolism? Fine. I'm not sure it's there, but it's there. So we can read into it. And do it perfect. And then you have done it. And then this one again, dry, Israeli, non-emotional language. You know? And you don't say a word about it. Just that he went off to war. Later, my father went to war. We have not used the pit, Todah Le'el, even not once, thank God, during the 6 days. We did paint our car lights dark blue. We did cover our windows with black paperboard. And you can see all the getting ready during the Hamtana period. You had to paint your car lamps blue. You had to put a dark boards or whatever on your windows so that there should be no light. Later, for a year or two, the pit functioned as a tent we had built of chairs and sheet when our parents were not at home. Then my father filled it with red soil and planted above it green grass and large iron swing, which did not bear fruit, but did not die either. And some of you wanted to go along with the terrible negative image of did not bear fruit. And I would not let you do that because it's a totally positive image. Again, I was raised by people like Amnon's parents. The trees don't grow. Never mind. Make good. You can put a swing over it. The kids to enjoy. After work, we can go there. Lama lo. So we don't have the marmalade trees. No shoin. Okay? But we have, I can hear them say it in Hungarian and Yiddish and whatever. And it all was perfect until I have ripped the house apart. Because his parents died, and his older brother was killed in the Yom Kippur War, and the younger brother was not up to it, so he had to take apart the parents' apartment. And the anger about it, of having to rip the house apart, and not ever looking back to see what happened to the swing, or to the trench, or to anything. So this is the only piece of text, literature, whatever, that we are reading that was not written in 67. It was written this year, and for the first and only time on Facebook on June 6th, and I was fortunate enough to find it. I'm not taking comments. I want for you and for us to move on to Abba Kovner. Now, unlike Amnon, who is totally unknown to all of us, we need to really recognize the fact that Abba Kovner is a very well-known figure when he writes this text. What are his claims to fame? He is at the head of the Vilna ghetto uprising in 1942, and he is the one who, in his pamphlet calling for the uprising, is using for the first time the sentence, "Let us not go like sheep to the slaughter." And many of time, and if any of you have been in my Holocaust education sessions, I will say, and I am very much opposed to the use of the sheep to the slaughter imagery, because who are we to judge? I will say the only person who is allowed to use that is Abba Kovner. Okay? But it becomes an iconic linguistic expression. He survives the Holocaust, and he makes it to Israel in time, Baruch Hashem, for the 48 war, in which he becomes a sort of an educational officer, and he writes the different pages in the names of the commanders of the Southern Command. And at that point, beyond writing some beautiful stuff, he also writes something that for which he becomes not famous, but at least in my book, notorious. Some people may think differently. Kibbutz Nitzanim in the south, close to Ashkelon, suffered a terrible Egyptian attack, lost many of its members, and decided after, I think, 3 or 4 nights of hopeless fighting to give up and move inland. And for which Abba Kovner criticized them in one of his pamphlets and said that they should have fought until the last member of whatever. I have family in Kibbutz Nitzanim, okay? So, and we are angry at Abba Kovner for that. And we are not the only ones. Like, who are you to judge them? Who are you to say how many children and women, etc., should have been lost before they evacuated? In later years, people tried to make some peace between Abba Kovner and Kibbutz Nitzanim. It never really succeeded, okay? He visited once. They had him visit once, but it's still an open wound. I'm telling you this. I could have told you amazing stuff about Abba Kovner, but I'm telling you this because I want you to be able to discern in the English version, and I'll tell you why I'm using that one, a certain tone which is very Abba Kovner-esque, if you wish. The fighters, the ghetto fighters, as opposed to Sheep to the Slaughter, the kibbutz members which he joins as opposed to other people. This inner Israeli hierarchy that has nothing to do with the religious, not religious, left wing, right wing. It has other criteria. The other good thing that you need to know, and I neglected to put in here, is that he is the dreamer, creator, etc., of the Diaspora Museum of Bet Futzot. Okay? So, oh yeah. So he deserves some gratitude for that. Yalla. I'm turning your attention to the English text, and we will be reading very little because I walked among you and I saw how you read it. Why the difference between the two texts? I always knew this version of the Hebrew text. And when I was working for my second elective, which is from Siach Lochamim, the seventh day text, I came across the full Abba Kovner text on that issue in English. And I put it in my text, never paying attention that it was longer and more detailed than the one that I had in Hebrew. So with your permission, against my better judgment, I'd like to do the English now because it has a few elements that are worth mentioning, okay? So this is the end of the waiting period, and we want to hear and see through the eye of this ghetto fighter, major witness at the Eichmann trial, by the way, major witness at the Eichmann trial, the writer of the pamphlets about Nitzanim, the future creator of Bet Futzot, a very famous character in Israel at the time, and he is trying to capture that moment. That morning when the war started, the sun was out in full force. Everything around us smiled and glittered. And I asked myself, could a war start on such a morning? Here I was in a small town in the Sharon Valley, not among what I would call the most patriotic of people. Like, what? Like, excusez-moi? Where are you coming from? Well, needless to say that in 67, Israel hasn't got a clue about political correctness, neither today. But this was totally legitimate language for a person with an Abba Kovner background to look down on people who were not ghetto fighters, who were not kibbutz members, and to judge them to be less patriotic than himself. And yet giving them this grace of being nice in spite of the fact. I'm truly angry, as you can see. Here I was in a small town in the Sharon Valley, not among what I would call the most patriotic people, but ordinary, simple folk. But they were a symbol of the whole nation, in the same way as my kibbutz sending out its 125 sons to the war and leaving the fathers, mothers, and wives in the trenches to endure the anxiety of the impending attack. So, does this really need to be said? Do you have to stress the fact that you are from a kibbutz that had sent 125 of its sons to the front? Probably yes, in 67. Israel is very much that, and the place of the kibbutz among kibbutz members, among the fighting troops, is much, much higher than its proportion in the population. I always, when I talk about the role of the kibbutz movement, I say that, in spite of what you sung about in summer camps, at the height of its success, kibbutzim were not more than 3% of the population of Israel. Never more than 3. They were 4 together with the moshavim. But the PR, masho, okay? So Abba Kovner is really talking to that, to a time in our history when the kibbutz movement is perceived as the heart of your true, secular, fighting, committed, patriotic Israel. A voice totally lost. A few more words on this one. On the radio, the announcer was calling the units for mobilization. So I wonder how many Israelis, former Israelis, are in the room. Do you remember any of those code names? Had Uri left? You're here. You remember those names? Sadin, Adom, Har, Gavoha. They are always 2 words. They are always repeated twice, and they make no sense. That the magic of it all is that indeed, if you stand at the center of town, and it's on the radio. Remember, the radio is the communication of those years. And people next to you or on the bus, they will hear there is total silence. And then somebody goes, Sipor, Khula, Sadin, Adom, Har, Gavoa, Tavshil, Cham. And people will step off the bus, or people will get out of the store, and they are like peeling off, like a very silent music is playing. Then you had the whole description of the newspaper vendor and all that. I'm not repeating. And I'm going to the very end of it. My news vendor, I'm going to the one before last. It was not the first time that I saw nations going off to war. I saw them marching at the call of blaring loudspeakers, crowding the railway stations, embracing their sobbing wives, etc. And later, in the last chapter, thus gradually a deep silence descended on town. And it was the same in Kiryat Shmona, in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, and in Beersheba. Never in my life did I see a people rise so silently to its duty, with so heavy a sense of fate and such a calm preparedness. And behold, this is my people, and I never knew it. Zehu ami ve'ani lo yadati, and you all picked up on the biblical notion of the place and ve'ani lo yadati, so hamakom or ha'am, and I didn't know. Stand in awe, you who started with a critical tone, sort of taking it all back. Okay, zehu ami. It's very, very important to carry in our heart and mind this Abba Kovner voice, because what will come next is totally different. And we will have lost the silence and the modesty and this silent ability to join the ranks and do your duty out of the fear of the digging of the trenches. These people go off to war. The third element of Tkufat HaHamtana, this is the book I took it from, Siach Luchamim and Seventh Day. Those of you who have joined my electives, we will be giving the second elective to half of it to this one. The other sense is the sense of blockade of those days, and I think that was totally lost of sight. Because in our collective memory, the 6-Day War is about liberating Jerusalem and Rav Goren blowing the shofar at the Kotel. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't. The cause of the war, as you can see on the map, is that the Egyptians, Abdul Nasser, are blocking the Tiran Straits, and therefore business from Eilat cannot go through. And half of our whatever commercial exchange with the world is going through the southern port of Eilat, not through Haifa and not through Ashdod. And the closing of this Tiran Straits, there is Saudi Arabia on one side, Egypt on the other. They can very easily block the straits with cannons on both sides. And therefore, the sense of suffocation, if you wish, at the time, is not so much Holocaust related, is not so much what shall happen to the Kotel. Nobody thinking about that. But what shall happen to our livelihood? And then during that time, a song called Anachnu Na'avor, not Hadudaim. A line is missing there in your text. Here is mine. It has Anachnu Na'avor, okay? This is the full text. Again, write to me. I'll email you. And Hadudaim is the name of the duo, the two male singers. I know you did, and I walked among the tables, so I'm telling you, so you know. Don't go Dudaim and Biblical and Shira. Nah. It's just the name of these chevre. You'll see them in a minute. Now, in this case, because I've realized that some of you have practiced the singing, and because many of you have summer camp background, so you need the singing as much as we do here in Israel. I want quickly to go, I don't know what, let you enjoy the singing first and then go nasty on you with the text, or go nasty on you with the text and then hopefully you can still enjoy the singing. Let's sing first. Look at the text.
לכל המצרים יכולנו וגברנו מכל המצרים יצאנו עם איתן עברנו את השח גם את סיני עברנו אנחנו נעבור במצרי טירן אנחנו נעבור בחושך ובאור בדגל כל לבן במצרי אשר סגרו עלינו אנחנו נפרצם כי בא הזמן באגרופי ענק בעולם לבבינו אנחנו נעבור במצרי טירן אנחנו נעבור בחושך ובאור בדגל כל לבן במצרי טירן.
Rid of this, and I don't see where. Let's see if I make it bigger. No, it doesn't help. I will need just to probably go to the next slide. I lost it altogether. Nice. No, I didn't. Okay, did it. You're famous. Go to the text. If you, beyond the rah, march, etc. Look at the purpose of the exercise. It's literally an invocation. We are in Suez. The straits are closed. We need to make ourselves believe that we can break through. Nachon? And now look at the text. We overcame all the straits at Kol HaMitzarim. Do you know that in Hebrew, Mitzarim and Mitzrayim sound very similar? And it's all about Mitzrayim and not straits and Mitzarim. We emerged a mighty people. We survived 48 as well as the Sinai campaign. Chevra, seriously? You want to encourage the Jewish people and you want to tell them that we have overcome terrible stuff in our history and therefore we shall yet overcome this, and your only two examples is 48 and 56? Like, seriously? How shallow is your historical memory in Israel of 67? You want to give faith? You want to give courage, and all you can think of is 48 and 56, like bemet? אנחנו נעבור בחושך ובאור, etc. Look to the next one. All the straits that closed upon us, we shall break through them because the time has come. הזמן הגיע. With mighty fists, with beating heart, soliciting any other possible help? Prayer? A pasuk? A memory of anything? Nothing. And it reminds you, if you remember, if you ever studied with me, with many of your synagogues we did, that Hanukkah song of the 30s, Nes lo kara lanu pach shemen, when we totally take it upon ourselves to have dealt with all the miracle. No miracle happened. We all did it on our own. And this battle too, how shall we win it? Our fists and our beating hearts. Toda rabba. All the rest, Rabbonim, you keep for your sermons. We are not interested. It's not what's going to happen here. It's a very secular Israeli of the early years of Israel that is almost gone. You don't hear that voice anymore. And yet, you know what? I will tell you in a weird way. It did the job. And nobody looked for the pasuk. And it did give you hope. And it did give you encouragement. The last thing I need for you to notice is in the last stanza, Ki kol ha'am daruch, like a gun that is ready to fire. And then, thus the song rises from Elat to Dan. Mark that. Because this is the last time in 67 that the borders of Israel are going to be called from Dan to Elat. In the next one it will be Golan Heights to Sharm el-Sheikh. Okay? So this is like literally a day before. And our borders are still small Israel. We are done and we are moving on unless you have a very urgent comment question. No, don't, because I need every minute. Okay, so we are breaking through. Okay, we won the war. Mazel tov. And we are moving to the Euphoria phase. So Euphoria translates itself first and above all in this Kishon Dosh, both Hungarian. What else? Humoresque writers and caricature artists, Dosh and Ephraim Kishon. And they published this book. I gave you the Hebrew and the English version of the cover. It's still available. Slicha shenitzachnu. So sorry, we have won. Yeah, okay, so we did it, and look how we lean very comfortably and pretty snug at the foot of that Egyptian guy or whatever, and we have done it. In the early days after the war, we have this terrible publication of the victory albums. Now, I need for you to be honest. Who among you acquired at least one? Look around you. Would you today? I don't think so. We have matured, but we have been there, Chaverim. Let's say it loud and clear. We have been there. Not only have we been there, but we also have sung stuff like this.
Nasser מחכה לרביני, יאי, nasser מחכה לרביני, יאי, שיחכה ולא יזוז, יאי, כי נבוא 100%, יאי, nasser מחכה לרביני, יאי.
Very intellectual text. Very intellectual text. No, I did not give it to you in your source sheets. No, I'm not very proud of the fact that we have sung it, but we did. I'd like you to note another thing which I found out about just as I was preparing this workshop. At the very Hasidish, Yiddish-like tone. Ay, ay, ay kind of thing. It's not very Mizrahi. At the time that we were not very proud of our Yiddish heritage. But when it comes to moments of we did it, aha! Okay? So then you're even allowed to go to the slightly ironic, mocking, cynical Hasidus style. So Natzer is waiting for Rabin, and don't worry, Natzer, he will come and show you. All right? What was the victory, the issue of the victory all about? Here's a classic crack. No, I don't expect you to know the Hebrew. The title says, history says, not so fast, I cannot write it down so quickly. So here is history, very subtle. Here is history, and she's running after a nice, cute, young IDF soldier who is quickly running from El Arish to Jenin, to Gaza, to the Old City, to Tehran, to Sinai, to Hebron, okay? And that's the sense of it. We have two notions here. We did it, we won, and we came back to all those places. So in the next 20 or odd minutes or so, we are going to explore first the notion of we won, and then the notion of we came back. And some of it will be serious, and in some I'll try to have some fun with you, okay? Because you deserve it. We cannot weep all the time. We'll weep some. So let's start. I'd like to suggest that the one who totally gives word to this sense of we have won is Nomi Shemer, and no, it is not Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And I'm grateful, and now in public, to my best friend Chavruta in the world, because he never agrees with me, my son Uri, who, when I started discussing this with him, and I said, Uri, I want something to capture the spirit of 67 of the winning. And I was thinking Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. It says, are you nuts, Mom? Silver wings. And I thought for a minute, and he said, you're absolutely right. Now, for silver wings, I need to tell you that fact that I want to show you a whole biblical reference source sheet for this poem, which is not in your booklets. Allegedly, it was emailed to you later. It is? You emailed it to them later. You will. Okay. Beseder. So I want for us again, have a moment of nachas by singing it, and then hopefully tearing it apart. Okay? Because it needs to be torn apart. The other thing I need for you to pay attention, in the earlier two songs, We Shall Break Through, Anachnu Na'avor, and Natzer Mechakeh LeRabin, you could see from the cover and the graphics on the YouTube that it was very 67-ish. Both the Dudaim and the Natzer Mechakeh LeRabin. I want you to notice how contemporary this one is. So unlike Natzer Mechakeh LeRabin that none of us will sing today, and Anachnu Na'avor, well, you really have to be in the mood to sing that. But this one is alive and kicking in the Air Force. Go to your text.
על כנפי הכסף רקובים, אבירי הרוח ואבים, העזים והטובים כבני רשת יביאו, לתוך שמיים נקיים, זוהרים שבעה הרקיעים, ואנחנו ממריאים מגולן ועד יום
From where to where?
הים ויסוב החור, והנהר החור עבר, טס אחי ופנה לאור, ודגלו עלי עבר. הסולם רגליו באדמה, על ראשו בשמי המלחמה, אל מלחמה כבני רשף יגביהו חולם כלהב חרמש הוא כחץ שלוח ולוחש הוא כותב מכתב של אש מגולן ועד ים סוף
Now you sing.
נס הים וייסוב החור והנהר חורבה טס אחי ופנה לאור ודגלו עלי אהבה חלקם בכסף כרובים אבירי הרוח בערים
Okay. Let's go back to your text. I want you to know what's here. It has three main sources. I have traveled the tables and told some of you, but now I'm telling all of you from the podium. The first stanza that finishes with the line like flying creatures soaring upward, Kivnei Reshef Yagbihu Uf, is a reference for a quote from Iyov. From Iyov. It's Iyov Perek Hey, verses 6 and 7. And it says, Ki Adam le'amal yulad, uvnei reshef yagbihu uf. Because man is born for trouble, but flying creatures fly upward. It's a recognition of a place of the human being who needs to toil and work hard as compared to divine or semi-divine figures. And in some of the Kabbalistic reading, they are saying that Bnei Reshef are actually devils. Okay? Who can soar high. And Naomi Shemer, totally to me, against the biblical text, talking about the human need to toil hard for success, is adopting this making divine of the Air Force pilot. Do I understand why? We all did. Again, I'll repeat that 6 times. The victory of the 6-day war is not Har Habayit beyadenu. The victory of the 6-day war is the first 3 hours when we destroy the air forces of the Egyptians, the Syrians, and the Jordanians, and we reach all the way to Iraq as well to do some damage there. This is when we won the war, in 3 hours, not in 6 days. And look at the expression there on the first stanza, and the second stanza. Within clear skies, uvetoch shamayim nekiyim. You talk to an Israeli pilot, that's the basic mission. What are you a pilot in the Air Force for? To keep over Israel shamayim nekiyim. Shamayim nekiyim means not just beautiful blue sky. They mean there is not one single enemy airplane there. That's the meaning of shamayim nekiyim. And therefore, I have a measure of understanding to Naomi Shemer here. But still, do you need to go to that classical image of the separation between the human and divine, Adam le'amal yulad, uvnei reshef yagbi, and totally reverse it? Here is where we have this beginning of the Air Force bravado. They can do it all. They did it all. So within clear skies, 7 heavens shine. Bemet? 7 heavens? That's like spiritual. Seriously, Naomi Shemer? They're capable of doing that? I thought that was in text. I thought that was in the heart. We're losing all control of the imagery. We become factotum. We can do it all. And now you come to the chorus. Yofi. Nas hayam vayisov v'chor. The sea has fled and turned backwards, and the river turned to dry land. Shalom. We don't need Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't need Miriam, we don't need Aharon, we don't even need Nachshon, and for sure we do not need God Almighty. The Air Force will do it. They will make the sea turn back. They will clear the river. Now, you know what's the part, and then you continue to the next imagery. And do I need to read the quote for you? ויחלום והנה סולם מוצב ארצה וראשו מגיע שמיימה והנה מלאכי אלוהים עולים ויורדים בו. And he dreamed, and behold, the leather set up, etc. Bereshit 28:12. The ladder's feet are on the ground, but its head is in the skies of war. My brother flies towards the sun, like flying creatures soaring high. Shalom Aleichem, Mazal Tov. We are now, the Air Force is also the angels climbing on the ladder. Like, yeah, I can totally sit with you and sing the refrain, Nas Hayam, Vaiso, Vachor. But when my husband's son, who is a very nice guy with 3 little kids, and he's an Air Force pilot, F-16, and he does the job, trust me. But I can hear it hum this. That's the anthem of the Air Force. This is what these guys sing to this day. How do they say in nice American movies? I rest my case. Naomi Shemer was helpful, articulate here in a phenomenon that starts in Israel after those 3 crucial hours that kept us alive. I'm totally cognizant of that. And I also love Ophir, my husband's son, and for sure his 3 amazing granddaughters that they gave us. But there is something, there is a flaw there in the total adoration of the Air Force pilots. By the way, we have a nice story about that in the family, but I'm not wasting my time on that one right now. Not only, yeah.
Did she write it in the middle of the war, like before?
Immediately afterwards.
Afterwards?
After the Moked thing, when everybody realizes that the victory was won in those 3 hours, and Af Achi, and my brother is up there. By the way, I think that this bravado was, of course, part of the tragedy of the Yom Kippur War, 6 years later. And then all of you who might have had the Icarus imagery, I don't think that Naomi Shemer intended it, but my God, it was there. It's there. The too high, too confident, too full of himself. It is the same Naomi Shemer who will lead us into the notion of coming back. So I'll just give you a reminder, because you're nice people and I like you. I want you to see how Naomi Shemer, who wrote Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, scribbles in her little notebook. I always crack up because it's her phone book. When she adds the last verse to Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, and it's in her little phone book, and she writes it, probably the inspiration came in the middle of something, and it's on the tzaddik page. Why is that? Because we have very few names in Hebrew that start with tzaddik. So that was the empty, had it been a mem, there wouldn't be a space. But in tzaddik, which is ironic, so here is the text, and here is Yerushalayim Shel Zahav that we all know, and I will let you for sure enjoy about 30 seconds of it. And I want you also to be able to see the added, this is the added, we have come back, Chazarnu el borot hamayim. So Shuli Natan was the original tradition. You're allowed to enjoy. Critique will come.
ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב
listen to the end of it. So she added immediately the beginning. It was written for an Israeli song festival that was on Yom Ha'atzmaut prior to the 6-Day War, and it was not even in the competition. It was a song that was sung during recess time, intermission time in the competition, and immediately caught like fire. And for sure, 3 weeks later, after Harabait Beyadenu and the Kotel, and then Naomi Shemer opens the Tzaddik page in her phone book and adds this last stanza. So what I need to explore with you is the fact that Naomi Shemer is not talking about the Kotel. She's talking about the thing altogether. But already at that time, in the coming back thing, we will start by having the Kotel. So turn your pages to whatever page it is. On mine is number 8. I don't know in yours. HaKotel. 7, okay. And because you did not have the source sheets. And, okay. You are looking for HaKotel by Yossi Gamzo. And we will, again, listen for a couple of minutes of it. Some of you may know it. And then we'll look at the text. I'll be way less critical now, so don't be afraid.
אבל השתיקה עוד יותר. אמרה לי ציון הר הבית, שתקה לי הגמול והזכות, ומה שזהר על מצחה בין 2000 היה ארגמן של מלכות.
למוות אין דמות, אך יש קוטר 9 מילימטר בלבד.
אמר לי אינני דומע, ושב להשפיל מבטים.
אך סבא שלי אלוהים היודע, קבור כאן בהר הזיתים.
Okay, go back to your text, please. First of all, we know that alongside Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, they will be immediately along those lines of Naomi Shemer's added stanza, Chazarnu El, we came back to, and we start piling up the Chazarnu El. And of course, no matter where I stand ideologically, I'll be amiss if I did not start with the Kotel. That's the most important thing. And here is one of the first songs of the time, coming from the heart of ultra-secular Israel. And this is a statement that I need to make at this point as we will go along this poetry of the Euphoria. In 67, I'll speak for myself, but for many, there is no left and right. We are all enthused by it. We all rush to the Kotel. We all are happy to go back to all those places. We all sing about it. There were very few at the time who could claim the right to have said as early as 67, "Dear Balak, be careful. This is a slippery road." Most of us did not. And this is a classical. So look at the two elements of the classical. Go to your text. And I'm going to be like really very literal here and pushing the envelope a little bit. A girl stood in front of the kotel touching closed chin and lips. Chavirim, it's on the verge of erotic. You have a young woman and you need the physical touch and not just kissing it like mamish. You know, cling to the kotel. And indeed, it's a part of the time. You needed to go there. You needed to touch. You needed the tactile. It wasn't just enough for it to stay in the text as it used to be before. She said that the voice of the shofar is potent, but silence is stronger evermore. So yes, we have Rav Goren blowing the shofar wherever. Yes, she can hear that. But deep inside, there is another message. Silence is stronger. This is a recognition of a lot of silenced voices of the time that we will start discussing in Siach Lochamim, when there's very short of verbal expression, very unemotional Israelis are keeping everything inside, and little by little, some of it will come out. So silence is stronger. She said in words, "Oh, the temple, the mountain," no words about rights and rewards. So all this thing about zchut and about deserving it, she didn't articulate. She didn't say it. And her forehead shone at the sunset a royal red. So just by being in touch with the kotel, you become immediately ennobled and regal and whatever. The kotel of moss and sadness, the kotel blood and lead. Some people have a heart of stone, some stones have a heart of man. Oy. Like really, oy. Did we know it was oy in 67? No. We sang it. We didn't pay attention to the idolatry. The stone becomes humanized. And you worship the stone more than a human life, maybe. And therefore the clash with the paratrooper. The paratrooper stood next to the kotel, just him of the entire platoon. And it's not because they went on vacation. He told me that death doesn't have a shape, just a caliber of 9 millimeters, that's all. A very practical, tachlis, Israeli, secular soldier. I don't understand all this fancy stuff. He told me, "I fear I will not shed a tear I will not shed," and silently cast down his eyes. But grandfather, so help me God, is buried over there on Olive Mount. So even the soldier, he cannot connect religiously. He can connect family. Saba is buried over there. It's not because of King David, it's not because of Herod, it's not because of Bet HaMikdash and the Korbanot. None of that language is there. But the kotel becomes humanized. And the kotel acquires an importance that we didn't notice at the time, but will grow and grow and grow on us. And I'm stopping now, otherwise I'll become political. Okay. Which you don't need me to do. And now my question to you is the next one. So where else did we go back? Fine, we came back to Borot HaMayim and Yerushalayim and all that. Yofi Nomi Shemer had told us. Now Yossi Gamzu told us we came back to the Kotel. Where else did we go? Bethlehem. Let's do Bethlehem. Bethlehem again, yeah.
Before you go out of Jerusalem, would you say a word about Mayor Ariel and your Shemon Shabbat?
No, because I was asked not to do. Because Yossi, Klein, and Halevi did the whole session online for you guys, and therefore I was asked not to address that. See me after class. Okay. Shmulik Rosen is a riot because he's not a poet, the next poem, the Bethlehem thing. He was the guy who did, he did quizzes on the radio. He was popular for that, okay? And suddenly he writes this poem, lyrics, song, of coming back to Bethlehem. I need to show you again that you had a source sheet, all biblical for that I will quickly read through. So the first one, just justifying why is Bethlehem becoming so important in the coming back. Because in the classical biblical imagery, you have this Jeremiah 31 verses 14 to 16. כה אמר אדוני קול ברמה נשמע נהי בכי תמרורים רחל מבכה על בניה מנעה להילחם על בניה כי איננו. כה אמר אדוני מנעי קולך בבכי ועינייך מדמעה. So says the Lord, a voice is heard on high, lamentation, bitter weeping. Rachel weeping for her children, she refuses to be comforted for her children, for they are not. So says the Lord, refrain your voice. Okay? So in the biblical prophetic, not contemporary with Rachel, which is much earlier, the prophet Jeremiah portrays Rachel because she dies on the road, because she is not buried with the other patriarch and matriarch at Me'arat HaMachpelah, but separately in Kever Rachel. She is on the way, so in a perfect position to see and weep with us as we go on Galut, and to be there, God willing, when we come back. And therefore the prophet Jeremiah is promising Rachel, don't you weep. We will yet come back. And you will see them coming back. So it's a classical Israeli secular reference. Because you guys can often pick up the Siddur reference and the Rashi reference and the Midrash reference. Secular Israelis, of which Shmulik Rosen is one, will know their biblical lore. We oftentimes do not know Rashi. We will not know about Mishnah Brura, but we do know the biblical context. So therefore, Yirmiyahu, and if the prophet promises, so can the poet. Don't worry, Rachel, we're coming back. The other one is, of course, the place reference, and it is from Bereshit 31, Lamed Aleph, ותמות רחל ותיקבר בדרך אפרתה היא בית לחם ויצב יעקב מצבה על קבורתה היא מצבת. It's just a location where קבר רחל is. The reference, of course I can give it to you, Genesis 31, 19 to 20. I gave you also reference to הר הברכה והקללה from דברים. But I don't want to spend time on that because I'll send you the whole page. I mean, it's really no big deal. I want you to look at something linguistically interesting. In Genesis 35:17, when Rachel is about to die giving birth to Binyamin, the Meyaledet, the midwife, is talking to her, Vahi behakshota belideta. It came to pass when she had such difficulty giving birth that the midwife said to her, Vatomer la hameyeledet al tir'i. Do not be afraid. Al tir'i. Yare lirot. But the Hebrew has that other verb, look, re'i. And the poet is playing with the sound effect. The Meyaledet at death is saying to Rachel, Al tir'i, and I, the 67th poet, am telling her, Re'i Rachel, look Rachel, we're coming back. The promise was fulfilled. There is another reference to the Bethlehem star, which is very confusing, because my goodness, we do not need any Christian imagery in this. although it's Bethlehem. So I looked it up, and I think that Shmulik Rosen is really making reference to a Bamidbar 24, where it says, "Ve'erenu ve'lo ata ashorenu ve'lo karov darach kochav miYaakov." Okay, so a star has gone forth from Jacob, and a staff will arise from Israel. It's about the future victories. The last but not least is beautiful. It's so Israeli. Because if there is a book that Israelis like in Tanakh is, which is our preferred one? Joshua, voila! Somebody who understands Israelis. We love Joshua. This is where the action happens. This is when we win the wars, right? And what's his name? Shmulik Rosen, at the conclusion of his song, he will use a Joshua reference. And he will say, "Hechalutz holech lifnei hakohanim, ve'hama'asef holech acharei Aaron," is those two parts of the army, the chalutz, the pioneers, those who go ahead, and the me'asef, those who pick up the rear, and they're all when they're getting ready to circle Jericho, okay? So they are all getting organized, and the chalutz is going there, and the me'asef is going there, and Shmulik Rosen, when talking to Rachel, he will promise her, we will get organized just like it says in the Bible, okay? Akol yeh kasher lemehadrin. Let's give Arik Lavi, whose rendition I love on this one, and then we'll quickly run through the song.
ראייה וכדרכים עולה מעיר שלם ורכב הברזל שועט אל מול ירך ועם שלם מביט בך כחולם כנפי פלדה חגות מעל קברך ראי רחל ראי ריבון עולם ראי רחל ראי הם שבו אל כולם ראי רחל ראי ריבון עולם ראי רחל ראי הם שבו אל כולם.
I'm stopping here because I need for us to look at the text. Behold, the dust of roads rises over Shalem city, Yerushalayim. The iron chariot is charging ahead facing your town, and the whole nation is watching at you like dreamers. Steel wings are hovering over your graveside. So it's mamash describing the battalion going by Kever Rachel. And then Re'i Rachel, behold, and it's a play with the Al-Tir'i of the midwife. Yeah.
The most dominant for me, I'm sorry to even ask this, but it's Midrashic, because that is Midrash about the Shechina with Rachel standing and watching you go into exile.
Jeremiah, I just read the reference. Midrash is based on Yirmiyahu. You guys read Midrash, Israelis read Tanakh. It's all, like you said, the Hayam Nasog Le'achor, you told me it's Tfilah, it's the Siddur. I said hello. Before it went into the Siddur, it went into the. I'm not taking comments now. I'm sorry. I need every single second of the coming minutes. Behold the winds of Iyar. This is a classical 67 poetic reference. Everything goes back to 48, to Iyar, to the declaration of the state. Oh, hey B'Iyar, anu machrizim bazot, the 48 war. Ruchot Iyar. Iyar is when the Gush fell. The night before the declaration of the state, the whole Bethlehem area fell. So we are remembering the spirit of 48. Re'i ruchot Iyar. It's not enough to know your Tanakh. You need to know your Israeli history for the reference. Carrying steel columns. Benjamin is with us, and so is Joseph. Your two sons. We brought them. They're here. Bethlehem's star twinkles trembling. I wonder where this was coming from. The pioneer is with us, and so is the rear. Just as we said in Yoshua, okay? So really set up the army in the biblical way. Refrain your voice, Rachel, refrain your voice from weeping. We are all here, Rachel, with backpacks on our shoulders. So here is your answer to your midrash. It says that she will wait, and we indeed are coming with our dusty IDF uniform, okay, and backpacks. We are all here, Rachel, and you shall never go away. We shall never go away. We shall never go away, Rachel, from the fields of Bethlehem. Bevakasha. Now start negotiating. Okay? So from day one, this is not about, 1 mile here and 1 mile there. We are back with Rachel, like with Ima. Who's going to separate us again? The beginning of this biblical messianic language, which will develop and develop and develop. Just take a hint. Starts from the heart of secular Israel. The heart of secular Israel at the time. Okay. So, how many of us remember Gadot? Turn your pages. No biblical reference to that one. Your page 10, or maybe 9. 9. My daughter, are you crying or weeping? You have cats and David Kribouche. This relates to a part of the word that we so easily tend to forget. This is the Kinneret. This is where Gadot is. They are straight under the Golan Heights that used to be the Syrian plateau. And they are constantly shelled. So much so that kids in Gadot literally grow up in shelters prior to 67. Their kindergarten is in the shelter, they sleep in the shelter, etc. Okay? And of course there is shelling at the beginning of the war, and the kibbutz is destroyed. And when you come out of the bunkers and the shelters, this is what you see. In the vein of that, a book was created, available in English, of children's drawings and poetry of these kibbutzim under the Golan Heights. It's called Childhood Under Fire. And you can see some of the pages. I'm not reading them with you, but I do want you to see the drawings of the Shamayim Nekiyim notion, that you see the Syrian airplanes and you need to be in the shelter. And then the last one with the classical quote, and all our fields aglow. So the total destruction of those kibbutzim. It's in the vein of that my daughter, are you crying or laughing, is composed. I'd like to go through this text before, then we'll hear a little bit of it. It's a conversation, actually. It's dialogue style. The last shell exploded and went silent. The silence enveloped the valley. A girl at the bank went out from a shelter, and there are no more houses on the farm. It's funny that they should say farm, because the word in Hebrew, enot batim b'meshek, and meshek is synonym to kibbutz. Okay? It doesn't mean farm. It means the kibbutz. But there was like a solid formal translation, I took it. Mom, we had a greenhouse with Dad and a doll and loquat, Shesek, and the house is no longer. Dad is far. My mother, are you crying or laughing? So the question, the poetic question, is coming from the child to the mother. Look up, my daughter, to the mountain that was as a monster. There are still cannon, my girls, on the hill, but they are threatening Damascus. Take a moment. Because I know you. I listen to your sermons. I know that many of you will refrain from expressing happiness that cannons are towards Damascus. And yet, be honest, can you not feel the joy of this? So this is like a tough moment here for us. Because ideologically, morally, no child should be raised to be happy that cannons are threatening Damascus. Bemet lo. And yet, can you raise an Israeli child not to be happy when the cannons are not towards them but towards Damascus? So the whole Israeli dilemma, if you wish, and I will let you listen just up till that line. עכשיו הם פונים מאיימים על דמשק. Okay? And it's
פגז אחרון התפוצץ ושתק, עטפה הדממה את העמק. ילדה בגדול יצאה ממקלט, ואין בתים עוד במשק. אמא היה לנו בית ירוק, עם אבא ובובה ושסק. הבית איננו ואבא רחוק, אמי את בוכה או צוחקת. הביטי למעלה ביטי אל ההר, ההר שהיה כמפלצת. עוד יש תותחים ילדתי על ההר, אך הם מאיימים על דמשק.
עוד יש תותחים ילדתי על ההר, אך הם מאיימים על דמשק. So it's not an issue of coming back, it's an issue of reversing the situation. Those cannons were threatening us, well, we did it. Okay? We cleared the Golan. It's ours now. Okay, we are not going to do Emek Dotan. We don't have time, so we are just going on. Some other time, some other place, and we come to this, because this is a riot. I cannot not do this. And this is, if there was ever a stupid Israeli song about coming back anywhere, it's this one. Is it not? Like, seriously? We came back to Shalom HaSheikh, like, when have we been there, excusez-moi? In what chapter of Tanakh is it mentioned? Which tefillah in the Siddur? Yeah? I know about that. But like, Chazarnu Elaich, like Bethlehem and the Kotel and all that, and suddenly Shalom HaSheikh is ours as well, like Admat Moledet, like, honestly and seriously. So, in order for you to understand me fully, I need you to look at this picture. This was taken in the Tiran Straits on a boat, a scuba diving safari boat. Can you guess when it was taken? I'm sorry for the sacrilege on Shavuot. The last one. And this person here is me. And this is Yossi. I can make as much fun of this song as you want. And I, honest to God, love Shalom HaSheikh. And I will go there every single time. And when I book the days of the safari in our calendars, Yossi's and mine, what did I write? No. I missed the song, Rega Echad. I need to go back. How do I go back here? Here. I hope it's somewhere here. It's here. Yalla. I wrote in our calendar, Ad Shalom HaSheikh Chazarnu Elayich Shani. In the calendar, over a week. And just asked me, are you nuts?
גדול הוא הלילה
Summer camp.
ולך מחייך חזרנו עם מוקר אל שארם א-שייח עברנו בלילה בים ובהר ובאנו עם בוקר אל תוך המיצר עד שארם א-שייח חזרנו אלייך שנית עד בליבנו ליבנו תמיד הים והמלח
La, חברים, we need to continue. So we came back to the Kotel and to Bethlehem and to Emek Dotan, which we didn't do, and to Gadot, and to Sharm el-Sheikh. And we really are in full celebration. And Chavirim, I could go writer by writer and show you how 10 years later they are all in Shalom Achshav. They are all against the occupation. But in 67, everybody was at the same place. Like Emek Dotan is Dalia Rabikovich. The most heartbreaking anti-war poetry after the first Lebanon war is Dalia Rabikovich. You can look her up. And she's the one, we came back to Emek Dotan. Like, seriously? What's the holiness of Emek Dotan? We betrayed our brother there? We sold Joseph to slavery? Now it becomes a shrine? Like, what is this business? But in 67, we were all there, but for a few. And the few, and now I have 6 minutes. So I need to choose one of the three. But I want to tell you about the two others. This one is Mishi Chalam. And it's a classical, you can look at it quickly at your text. We are not going to listen. It's on your page 12, probably. Didi Menossi. And I want you to look at the stanzas. He who dreamt and kept the dream. He who dreamed will not forget what he had fought for. He who remained awake all night shall, etc., shall still see. And look at the last stanza. And the mountains shall shine with burning light, and at dusk the ocean breeze shall blow. 1,000 flowers shall flower, and in between the fields, and shall be witness that we have remembered all of them. This is a classical 48 conversation. Ki reut shekazot leolam, because a friendship like that will not let our hearts forget. And the flowering flowers of Babelvad, Yom Aviv Yavo Rakafot Tifrachna. It's a totally Didi Menossi, graduate soldier of 48, creating a morning song of 67 and saying, hello, we haven't forgotten. And we shall not forget the new ones. The second one does not deserve a 1-minute treatment. And that's your page 13, Hayiti Nar, I was a teenage boy, by David Atid. It deserves a full session. It's the first ever articulated Israeli voice about the fact that our brave soldiers could come back bodily complete and with broken souls. So the targets are cleared and demolished. We have done it. The snow on Mount Hermon are melting in the sun. It's summer. And in Ghost Town on the Heights, Kunetra, a lonely donkey wanders just like before the war. Summer returned to its old strongholds, but your face, my boy, stay changed. One line only. We did the whole business. We went back to normal, and yet. The curtains were removed, remember? And the tape scrapped. And the town clear locked out the bomb shelters. The lawns are growing new greenery. Amnon, we are going back to the trench that has now green grass on top of it, okay? Over trenches, scars. Pomegranates are back in the markets. Oh, it's not summer anymore. It's fall already. It's not June, it's October now. Months have gone. I had a young man, he was in love, his voice was pure and clear, such were his eyes. The battle had quieted down, he is coming back to the gate once more, but he walks heavily, his face is sealed. And the last stanza, stand at the gate, my girl. It's the call from the soldier now. Stand at the gate, I'm coming back to you on dirt roads. I was a boy, my girl, I was a boy. Now smile to me, my familiar, my beautiful. So this is the beginning of it's not all perfect, it's not all great, but the only clear voice at that time is Hanoch Levin, beyond Yeshayahu Leibovich. the poetic voice, who will create that show called You and I and the War to Come. There is even an English rendition of You and I and the War to Come. I have it here. I don't have the time because I need to close in a certain way. In chess, I think it's one of the earliest anti-war poetry lyrics in Israel, when there is no reference to us and them, there is no reference to right and wrong, there is no reference that it's better that the cannons should be trained to Damascus than to Gadot, which we all know and agree to, but a general look at wars as a chess game. So look at the lyrics very, very quickly. Can I go like 1 minute beyond? Yeah. Okay. All right. No, I'm always told to respect your time, and I will respect your time. But I want you to look at the stanzas of where did my child go, my little good child? Black pawn captures a white pawn. Okay, the war is totally sterilized, and one voice is talking about child having gone to war, and the other is a child voice talking about the father. So a totally one-level equality. Parents are mourning children, children are mourning parents. One side is white, one side is black. It doesn't matter. It's just a game with a beautiful rendition of Chava
לאן הלך ילדי, ילדי הטוב לאן? חייל שחור מכה חייל לבן. לא יחזור אבי, אבי לא יחזור. חייל לבן מכה חייל שחור. וכי בחדרים ובגנים שתיקה, המלך משחק עם המלכה.
There is an absolutely non-personalized king and queen who back in their rooms are playing around, and meanwhile a war is ravaging. How come so few of you could sing it? How come you do not know it? Chava Alberstein. Because we don't know it. Because the play, You and I and the War to Come, was taken off the stages not by the censorship, by the public. We didn't want to hear these voices. They were all there. In Malkat Ambatya and in Ketchup, Hanoch Levin wrote about them and a few others. We were in a different place. And for that, I need to close on a text that I didn't intentionally put in your booklets because I needed for you to be surprised, and then I'll email it to you. I want to remind you that the result of the fear followed by bravado, by coming back to all those places, by committing to never leaving them, made a certain atmosphere in this country that was totally oblivious to the risks and the hubris of it all. However, in the year 1970, there is at least one man, a diaspora leader called Nachum Goldman, who tries to reach out to Golda and to say, I can arrange for you to meet the Egyptian president. I can arrange for you to do something. And in the Israeli press, an article will appear that Shabbat. Had I been the elected government, I would have told him, Nachum Goldman, to go to see the Egyptian and hear their president, to travel personally or in an organized tour, to travel secretly or openly, and if not to Egypt, then to other exotic country, a slumbering Australia or awakening Africa, go, Nahum. I would summarize and deduct. Go, I would tell him, because where you are right now, you are just annoying. This was the official, popular voice of Jonathan Geffen. Can you think of a poet today who is more left-wing than Jonathan Geffen, the father of Aviv Geffen? And he is saying in Yediot Achronot to a diaspora leader, go away. We don't need you to teach about peace. Shall I add about the inability of Israelis to listen to diaspora voices? Or have you figured it out by now? Do I need to add a plea for you not to let go and continue nudging, even if we think you are annoying? Because we need your voices. Toda rabah. Thank you very much.